Hello there and welcome to A Business Worth Living. We are in May already. It is hard to believe, but anyway, so the calendar tells me. My name's Julia Spicer from Engage and Create Consulting in Gundawindi, and each month we've been having a conversation with somebody around a strategic part of our business, a small business, regardless of where you're based, regardless of what your business is. There are some key areas that we know are really important to making sure that we've got a successful business that can be managed through times of challenge. And so that's really where this concept of a business worth living came from. If you go to the Engage and Create Consulting website, you will be able to find our business health check, and that has a whole lot of different areas: people, legal and finance, product and services, innovation and technology. The list goes on, but one of those headings or one of those areas that we think are really important for a small business to have their head around is management and operations. And so that's what the topic for our guest today on A Business Worth Living. So can I please introduce to you Angus Telford from the Raw Group. Angus is one of the directors of Madam Woo and Chew the Fat restaurants in Brisbane, and has also just been part of the redevelopment and the reopening of the Stock Exchange Hotel, which some of us will have very fond memories of. Some of us might have some hazy memories of, if I'm completely honest with you. And Angus has also recently started a podcast called A Slice of Business, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that. Angus, you look particularly familiar. Do you want to tell everybody who you are, how you've ended up where you've ended up, and where we crossed paths in your life? It was a very, very special time, I know.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Julia. So for those of you who don't know, I am Julia's younger and much more successful brother. So we met quite a while ago. So yeah, in terms of how I've got to where I am, I guess firstly I should say, some of you may have noticed the sunroof in the back. I'm actually just sitting in my car.
You're homeless. That's how successful you are. You're homeless.
But yeah, it was the quietest spot I could find to do this. So yeah, please do excuse that. Hopefully there's not too much traffic around me. In terms of business-wise, how I got to where I am, look, a bit of a different sort of path, I guess. Really quick summary, I actually did go off to uni and did an engineering degree and used that for a few years. I headed off overseas to the UK for a couple of years. And when I got back, it was sort of right in the middle of the GFC, and engineering projects sort of slowed down. And in the end, just took a job briefly in hospitality. I'd done a bit during uni. I really enjoyed it, and kind of ended up climbing the ladder. And next thing I know, I've got a sort of part ownership in Madam Woo first in Brisbane City. And that then extended out to Chew the Fat in South Brisbane as well. And yeah, just recently been part of getting the Stock Exchange Hotel reopened in the CBD as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I've sort of ended up where I am.
So Angus, we want to have a talk around this piece around management and operations. And I guess, as you said, you did engineering at uni and have kind of, as a result, and you know, through lots of different avenues, found yourself in the hospitality sector. And I mean, that's your career now, basically, isn't it? Like your career that you're building is in hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely, yeah, obviously I'm in the hospitality sector. I think it gets to the point in hospitality, if you keep moving up, that realistically you're in the hospitality sector, but essentially you're a business manager. And that takes on a few forms. You know, it's less and less that I'm really dealing a lot with customers. A lot of what I do is around HR, certainly a big part of my job. And around just sort of focusing on numbers, really. At the end of the day, whichever sort of business you're in, I think a lot of it comes down to numbers. You know, what you're making, what you're spending, and whether you end up making any money at the end of the day. So I guess I'm kind of at the point now where my job is less hospitality and more just around running the businesses.
So talk to us a little bit about that then. Talk to us about what is, you know, when when I asked you to talk about management and operations, and you've had a look at the business health check and some of the, the things that we think are really important for small businesses to be part of. And I take your point, a restaurant is in the hospitality sector, but it's a small business, and it's managing all the complexities that the rest of us are as well. And in your space of being somebody who's in charge of the HR, again, that's something you've fallen into and not necessarily studied in, or you have experience but not qualifications in that space, which is again often what happens for lots of us in small business. Talk to me about, what is it that you see is really important as being a manager of people? What are some of the things that are really important to you that you want to make sure you think good managers should be doing for their staff?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess the first thing, and especially since I guess my role in particular has expanded to being across several venues, one of the main things that we've tried to establish are what we call our core values. So this goes across our group, which has, sort of 16 to 18 venues in the group. And certainly for me, the focus is across the 3 venues that I sort of look after. So the first thing we did was sort of sat down and try to work out what our core values were. The first thing that came up was, well, we wanted to make money, but realistically making money is kind of a product of getting your core values right and sort of ticking off all those boxes. So really quickly, we came up with 5 core values. They happen to spell out CREST, and that was consistency. In hospitality especially, I think that's really important, that you're consistently producing a good product at a decent price. One was responsibility. Now that sort of played into our responsibility when it comes to things like the environment, sourcing, products that are from sustainable suppliers and that sort of thing, not having plastic straws and that. E was entertainment. So we always have a big focus in any of our venues, whether they're restaurants, pubs, that we, that it's fun, that it's entertaining, that people have a good time when they're there. Service, another one of our core values, that we have great service for our guests. And C was thankful. So just being thankful to our guests, to our staff, whoever it is, that we're able to even operate our businesses. So they were the core values that we came up with. So then it's a matter for us, I guess, at the top to impart that down on the entire team. So firstly, obviously the sort of top level managers, to make sure they're across those core values, and then they're kind of filtering out to the rest of the people in our team. So we kind of try and keep those core values always at the forefront of our mind in sort of everything we do. So like I mentioned, we won't go to some suppliers that are doing the wrong thing with their farming techniques or their fishing techniques or whatever it is. For service, it's sometimes you're interviewing someone and you just get that gut feeling that they're not going to fit into the team. And when we sit down and analyze that, we realize that gut feeling is that they don't fit in with the core values. Maybe they're not entertaining, they're not fun, they're not engaging. So, they're not going to fit into that core value of being entertaining. Maybe it's that we feel like, they won't give that awesome service that we're looking for. So basically everything we then do in the interactions with our staff, with our customers, with our suppliers, we always come back to those core values and try and make sure that whatever we're doing fits in with that.
Yeah, that's really good. And so then when it comes to, you talked about the fact that you've got people across multiple areas, and the reality is people that will be watching this might also have that. They might not be restaurants, they could be farms, or they could be, multiple locations of offices or staff that are working from home. How do you kind of keep the communication and things like that going between the various, between different restaurants that you're managing?
Yeah, it is tough, and it's something we've certainly focused on over the last sort of 6 to 12 months. I mean, with, technology, it has kind of made it easier in some ways, but in other ways, some of our staff, some of our managers, they're getting hit with so many notifications and they're on so many different things that it is hard. For us, it's a WhatsApp group between each of the management teams. So that's how, I'll communicate to them. They'll come back to me if there's any issues. And, that can be something small like, hey, did anyone find a pair of sunnies? So I got someone calling that's left them at the venue. Up to, that might be how I communicate with the guys when we're starting a new special or we've got a new product or a new menu or something like that. Then that filters out. We've got Facebook groups for all our staff. So that's a bit of an easy way that I think our staff can follow along without getting bombarded with notifications. So all our staff at each venue have a staff Facebook page. And again, that's the way that their managers will filter out staff training essentially around new menus, new products. We might run an incentive for a weekend for whoever can sell the most of a certain type of wine or something like that. So they're all on that staff Facebook page, and we've started to lean on that a little more. With COVID, that kind of presented some challenges. It probably wasn't the best idea to be bringing a lot of staff into the venue to do staff meetings or staff trainings. We wanted to keep communicating with those guys without having to drag them all in, and especially when we had some lockdowns and that sort of thing. So we started using that staff Facebook page a lot more to get that information out to staff.
Would you use literally, would that be Facebook Lives with people, or just the sharing of information via posts? How did you?
Yeah, we just start up a private Facebook group called Madam Woo Staff, Chew the Fat Staff, Stock Exchange Staff. So we've got to add those people into those groups, and we've got people in control of them. So as staff leave, they get taken out. As new staff come, they get added in. And it's just a good way to communicate with our staff. It's really handy too for compliance and stuff like that. For us in the liquor industry, we've got to have ongoing training around liquor service. So for my managers, once a month, they'll put up a post on our policies around having minors in the venue or, or intox and stuff like that. So really handy too from a compliance perspective. Same with the kitchen guys as well. They'll put up posts there about food handling and chemicals, that sort of thing around safety. So really good from that sort of thing as well.
You started a podcast, A Slice of Business. Have I got the name right? That I should have probably checked. A Slice of Business. And we have Phoebe who's joined us. So Phoebe, please pop something in the chat if you've got a question for Angus, and we'll open this up to be a bit of a chat shortly. But you started A Slice of Business podcast as a way to share stories of other people in hospitality. What's the driver? What do you hope that podcast series does in terms of how people are managing and operating in this industry?
Yeah, look, it's probably less around management and operations as it is around a pathway to ownership for some people. So I do partly feel lucky with the way that I got into ownership. So I started working for a group who then vendor financed me into my first ownership. But at the same time, I very much positioned myself to get that opportunity. So I was working for a big company. I knew there was no option there to get any ownership, and that was my ultimate goal. So I then took a step back, looked around the industry for companies who were on the way up. Raw Group had a history of vendor financing people into ownership. So I started working with them, and I made it clear from the start that that's where I wanted to get to, and that is what I achieved. I guess I looked around and I saw I had some people even working for me, certainly around the industry, who were maybe 30, 35. They'd gone past that sort of time in the industry where you have a lot of fun, you party a lot. It is one of those industries you can sort of get caught up in that. And they were getting to that stage in their lives where they wanted to take the next step, but it wasn't as clear to them what that next step could be. They didn't have $500,000+ in their back pocket to go out and open up a venue. And I think they were feeling a little bit trapped about where they wanted to go next. They didn't want to be sort of 50 years old, still, pulling beers or working on the floor of a restaurant. They wanted to take that next step into ownership. So I sort of played with it for a while on the best way that I could sort of help these people. I thought of maybe a mentorship program or something like that. But the thought of trying to line up a number of hospitality owners with the number of people who wanted to do that program was just the logistics were too hard. During COVID, I was listening to a few podcasts with a little bit of spare time, and I realized that was a way that I could interview some business owners, and some people could sort of sit back and listen to that when they had their free time. So I started lining up some people that I knew in the industry, that had started businesses, or in some way owned businesses, and that was across a lot of different areas in the industry. So certainly some people who had started up or owned venues, but also people who had started PR firms, people who'd started training companies focused on hospitality, people who'd started their own distribution companies, that sort of thing. So really just trying to give people an idea of different avenues they might be able to take to move into ownership without, that huge outlay of funds at the start to try and open up a venue. Some of these guys did it with a couple of grand, started a website, printed out some business cards, and then got started. A lot of them were working other jobs while starting these companies on the side. And as those companies started to grow, they were making enough income that they could cut back on their hours, cut back on their other hours, and then eventually just focus on their whole business because it was providing them enough income to do that. So,
it's certainly, and I think, you obviously have a hospitality focus to it, but the stories, I'm sure I'm your second fan after mum, if she's worked out how to download and listen to podcasts. But I think, I listen to it with zero background in hospitality, and yet a lot of the stories and a lot of the challenges are really transferable over any small business and over any regional business as well, which is obviously kind of where we as Engage and Create Consulting hang out. So I think that story around how do we help people live into what the business is that they want to be having is really important. Oh, Phoebe, you've really changed since last I saw you. Hello, David. You're muted if you want to unmute yourself. So yeah, I think that piece of it's really important. I will throw to you, Dave. Yeah, hello.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't figure out how to use Zoom, and I was like, I messaged Phoebe and I was like, it's actually not you, so I need to.
All good, sorry. All good. Hello.
Sorry. How are you?
Great. How are you? Good,
thank you. I just thought I'd tune in to have a listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you've been listening to the podcast at all, Dave, but if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them Angus's way.
No worries.
Because you are also in the hospitality industry.
I was, yes.
Yeah.
I haven't been for a while, but I'm about to get back into it. So.
Good-o. What are you about to do?
I'm looking at starting a cheese shop. So like a cheese shop / I guess wine bar sort of thing, bottle shop.
Yep. In Toowoomba?
In Toowoomba, yes.
Brilliant.
We're just kind of, working through all the fun process of liquor licensing and, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So I thought I'd get some pointers.
So one other thing I'll mention, and nice to meet you. But I also on the side, just to really fill in the last of my spare time, is I run RMLV courses. So for those in the industry who don't know, that's your registered managers of licensed venues. Now, one of the groups I get along is people who work in pubs and nightclubs who are managers and need to come along to do the course, but also people who are applying for a liquor license need to hold this certificate in order to get that liquor license. Now, I went to school in Toowoomba, but that was 20 years ago now. But I do know the place reasonably well. I've got to say, over the last 12 months, the number of people who I've had through the course who are opening different styles of venues in Toowoomba is phenomenal. And I mean, I just look back even sort of 5 years ago and just think, God, those sort of venues never would have worked in that location. I love how Toowoomba is just really becoming a real food and drink hub now, and those kind of venues can open up and the population's there to sustain them. So I think that's a really awesome sign for things to come in Toowoomba.
Yeah, we sort of want to get out ahead of it as well a little bit. So yeah, it's good.
Yep, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean a cheese and wine bar. Yeah, very cool. It's I can't imagine there's a lot in there at the moment. So yeah, I think it sounds great.
Thanks.
Brilliant. So Angus, you talked a little bit then about, what else you do. So you've got the training that you also do. How do we, in this space of managing ops, staff, multiple businesses, all of the rest of it, how do you make sure that you've got that balance time, or how do you what do you do from this, the term work-life balance, I think, is a bit of a myth myself, but what does that look like for you? How do you make sure you fit in all of the bits and pieces that you want to be doing in business and in life?
Yeah, look, I don't believe in a kind of work-life balance thing. I think especially if you do enjoy what you do, you don't need to kind of separate those things out. There's certainly not a thing for me where at 5 o'clock I go home and I switch off from my work life. Hospitality, being the industry that it is, it runs not 24/7, but certainly, it runs from 7 in the morning till midnight, runs 7 days a week. So that actually allows me some more flexibility in what I do. So maybe it's Tuesday morning I'm doing an RMLV course. Maybe Thursday morning I've got a podcast interview lined up. But around that, maybe a Sunday afternoon I'm going into one of the venues and doing ordering or something like that. So it's not something where you've got to get everything done between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday. It's an industry that's churning all the time. So that does allow me some flexibility. Look, it's just a case of planning. It's sitting down every Sunday night and going through what the week looks like. For me personally, with a couple of young kids and organising what happens with them, around the training, the days I'm doing that, around the podcast and the interviews I've got to do for that, and then what time I'm going to spend in which venues, and just lining up those meetings with key people. So, but certainly for me, I might leave at 5 o'clock, go and pick the kids up and take them home and put them to bed, and then at 7:30 I'm sitting down and doing an hour and a half of emails on my computer, and to be honest, I'm fine with that. It's what's got to be done to get the job done. And yeah, around that, I think there is some flexibility there where maybe on a Friday morning I'm off to swimming and I don't start until 10 o'clock in the morning. That's the trade-off, and I'm all right with that. But yeah, I think there's certainly not a time for me where I'm ever completely switched off, that my phone's not ringing, I'm sending emails, that sort of thing. But I think when you enjoy it, as long as when you're on that family time, you're focused on your family. I'm pretty happy doing emails at 10 o'clock at night or something like that if I need to.
Yeah. What's next? So you mentioned about the stock exchange. It's not open again yet?
Yep. So you're really keeping up. We opened 2 weeks ago.
I must have missed that on the family WhatsApp message.
Yeah, clearly. So yeah, we opened 2 weeks ago. So we've had a couple of weekends. They've been long weekends, which have been actually really good for us. Everyone's out and about again, which is great. We're not too hampered with COVID restrictions. So yeah, look, that's been running for 2 weeks. There's a lot we've got going on. Now we've got a few venues around Brisbane City. We're using that to centralise a lot of our processes. So in the past, each of these venues take phone calls, get emails, have function inquiries, and it's a lot for them to handle, as well as servicing the guests they've got, obviously. So we're going to centralise a lot of that sort of stuff, direct all of our phone calls into one place, all our emails, have a functions and reservations team.
Hold on.
A lot of those inquiries and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the sort of, as well as getting the stocky running, that's the big project that we're sort of doing at the moment.
So what are some of the programs or apps? Like you mentioned, you've got a WhatsApp group and a Facebook group for staff. Are there any other apps or programs that you use either for yourself or within the business that might be useful for people?
Oh, look, we use a Microsoft to-do list. I think I'm on about a dozen of them, just between 3 venues. So that'll be, each venue has their to-do list. If we are involved in any big projects, and we're involved in 2 at the moment, the phone systems, and also we're starting Me and You, which is an order at table app across all our venues. So those projects alone will have a significant to-do list. Then we've got a marketing to-do list for each venue. So that's one where, you know, all the key people are in each of those groups. And that's a handy one. Sometimes, you know, you might send something off to the marketing team saying, hey, I need a flyer, I need to start advertising this. You sort of think that's then done, but maybe that marketing person was off sick or whatever it is, or it gets lost in the fold. So, you know, just making sure everyone's accountable. You know, you've got some sort of priority list for those guys so that they know, hey, you know, we've got the Super Rugby final on this Saturday night. We need to get some advertising up ASAP. But then, you know, in 2 weeks, we've got an event that can wait until next week to get some advertising up. So making sure they're prioritizing, making sure everything we need to do gets done.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So talk to me, just I want to wrap up sort of me asking you questions, and I open it up if there's any other conversations that we want to have. Talk to me about what's an action that you would hope somebody watching this now or on the recording later, what's something that you hope they do as a result of this conversation? Is there something you want people to follow up with or do?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that that the process we did of sitting down and going through our core values, which I touched on earlier, was one of the best things we've done as a company. When we did it, we kind of found out that really we sort of didn't know what our core values were, and in some ways we were always a little bit working towards them in our dealings with our staff and our suppliers and our guests. But to actually sit down and really vocalize them, put them down on paper, make sure everyone knew exactly what they were, I think it was just so valuable that then, you know, when we were making those decisions, hey, are we going to switch from these guys to these guys in terms of our suppliers? It's not just like, oh, well, which price is better, which is, you know, who offers us more convenience. It's going, right, what are our core values? What's their service like? Yes, they'll, you know, you'll call them at 4 o'clock, they'll have the order there the next day. You know, are they using sustainable practices? All those sort of things. So I think if you're running a decent sized organization, sitting down with those key people and actually putting something down on paper in terms of your core values, it just gets everyone aligned with a lot of the decisions that you're making, that you know, you're heading in the same direction.
And Angus, you would know this because as a dear brother, you have looked at my website and you would know that we've got a values worksheet that people can download there. So
yep, that's what we used to do it.
You did not. Oh dear. And then have you got an ask? Is there anything that we can do for you?
Yeah, look, I will promote the podcast there. So yeah, it's called A Slice of Business, and like you mentioned, it is focused on the hospitality sector in regards to the people I interview, because they're the people I know, and I think you focus on what you know. But like we say, the things that I think we talk about there really do apply across any type of small business, you know, whether it's in agriculture, retail, whatever it is. I think the themes that just keep coming up are really common across a lot of small businesses. So, you know, it's available on Apple, iTunes, and certainly on Spotify. So yeah, jump on there, have a listen to a couple of episodes. Hopefully you might find some value there.
You'll be able to do an interview on Toowoomba's latest cheese and wine bar soon.
I think if I took a trip up to Toowoomba, I think there's 15, 20 people I could interview in a couple of days up there who have started off some really good businesses.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it, David?
It's getting started, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Phoebe and I both went on a trip to Brisbane at one stage with one of the Four Brothers brewery guys. Adrian was on that. There is some really cool stuff going on. So it's pretty exciting what's happening in Toowoomba at the moment, I reckon. Yeah. David, have you got any questions? Anything you want to ask of Angus?
No, not really. That all sounds pretty good. It's good to hear, and it's good to sort of refresh the memory on some of those sort of principles and things, because it's been a while since I was actually in hospo. But yeah, no, it's very good. I missed kind of the start. You said what were the venues that you have?
So I look after Matamoy Restaurant, which is on Eagle Street Pier,
Right.
Chew the Fat, which is over at South Brisbane, and Stock Exchange Hotel in the city.
Oh, nice. I've heard good things about all of those. I've been to the Stocky many times.
So we just took over. Stocky shut down in December last year. The company that was running were a Sydney-based guys. So with COVID and everything, they pulled out, and we reopened it 2 weeks ago. So
is it still just the stock exchange?
Yeah. So
nice,
we
nice.
felt like it had a decent name, so we didn't change that, and so we just gave it a bit of a touch up and got it open again. So yeah.
Great. Awesome.
So Angus, talk to me about like what's next is, you've done that work around the values as Raw Group. Is it just continuing to grow and accumulate more? Is it about getting to a point where you will say no more venues, but let's do more stuff at those venues? Like, what does the sort of future couple of years, and I know the Stocky's just started again, but what does growth look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And look, I know some companies in hospitality have a very much, we want to open up X amount of venues per year and keep growing in that way. That's certainly not what we're about. So what we do, we're continually looking for new venues. So we're always looking to expand. But what it looks like for us is when we find the right site, at the right price in the right location, and we feel like we can come up with an offer that'll complement that area, we'll go for it. So the company operates the beach house chain, so they're in a lot of Westfields and shopping centres, that sort of thing. So that's their model. It's great food at the right price, quick and easy. If you want to duck in for a meal when you're out shopping and that sort of thing. When we got the site at Eagle Street, we knew it was a good site, but it didn't fit a beach house, so we came up with Madam Wu, the site in South Brisbane. It wasn't on the water, it wasn't quite that premium in that corporate area. We'd done the Asian thing, we really enjoyed that, so we came up with Chew the Fat that was a little bit cheaper, a little bit quicker, more aimed at sort of being that Asian street food almost. Look, for us, it is always about expanding and finding more venues, but there's certainly not a goal where we're saying we want X amount of venues by 2025. A large focus for us at the moment, we've got venues that are busy, we're getting people through. It's just about focusing on those people, because we know that head spend and guest experience are very much linked. So it's about us going, righto, we want to give these people great service. If they want another bottle of wine, our staff are there to accommodate that, because we know it's got probably a threefold that the guest finds that's great experience. They leave really happy thinking that they've had great service, and that actually improves our bottom line because we've maybe sold them that extra drink or whatever it is. So our focus for us is just continually improving the venues that we do already have. And I don't think that ever ends. I don't think you've ever got a venue that you sit back and go, yep, that's 100%. I can walk away from that now. Continually improving the venues that we have, but we are always on the lookout for new sites, new locations to expand the group.
Yeah, great. And I guess as a bit of a wrap-up question, and just one I'm keen on, like what did COVID, what were any learnings from COVID? I mean, obviously, the more rural we were, the less and less we were impacted by COVID. It was almost business as usual for lots of us, other than the hospitality industry and the accommodation guys. But for you, and from a management perspective, what were some learnings or some takeaways from the COVID experience?
Yeah, it was an interesting one for us here. And look, first of all, I will say, like, I'm certainly not going to whinge too much about COVID because, the guys in Melbourne just had it really bad. Obviously, the guys overseas have had it so much worse. And even really here in Brisbane, people are like, oh my God, it must have been so awful for you as business owners. The truth is, look, it was a tricky time to manage cash flow and stuff like that. But to be honest, like, we had a large amount of our staff from overseas. They just got they got stood down. We couldn't afford to have them on. They got no support from the government, couldn't go home. So look, I'm not going to complain too much about COVID. It was a tricky time, but look, we got through it. Look, I mean, there's a lot of COVID cliches that came out around pivoting and adapting. And that was certainly for us. We improved our takeaway and our delivery offers at some of our venues. it was about just sort of getting a little bit leaner. You know, when your income gets affected so much, you really start looking at a lot of things and suppliers and deals and that sort of thing that you're getting, whether it's rent and that sort of thing. So yeah, for us, we probably got a little bit leaner and cut a few of our expenses, and probably improved some of our offers and the different ways we did things. Yeah, takeaway and delivery and stuff became a bit more of a focus.
Yeah, I certainly feel for a lot of the staff that you would have had. As you said, there were lots of people who were in a really awful position, so we really feel for them.
Yep.
Angus, thanks heaps for your time today. I think it's really interesting to look at how different businesses come at things from a management and ops perspective and what's really important. So it has been really good to talk with you today. Thanks, David, for joining us live. There'll be others who will watch it. But if you don't have any other questions at this stage, let's call it a day.
Awesome. Thanks very much for that. It was great.
We'll let you get out of the car, Angus.
No, thanks very much for having me on.
He's homeless, Dave, we said at the beginning.
Fair enough.
He was saying he thinks he's way more successful than me, so that's why he's living in a car. Angus, now I've got to work out how to get other family members onto this, because I can't only have you or I'll be in trouble by everybody else. So
yeah, fair enough.
Watch out for another webinar in time with Rain and her Bundaberg play therapy business. Okay, let's call it quits, and we'll see you all again soon.
Alrighty, I'll see you. Thank you very much.
See you,
No
David.
worries. Thank
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.